Hey there, welcome. The first edition of the 710 Report. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday. Just kind of getting into the groove here. Hope you like our background over here. I think it's pretty cool, pretty canadelic. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. Here to just talk about what's going on the federal level with the MORE Act and federal legalization, because there seems to be a lot of confusion as to what exactly that means. So the MORE Act has passed the House and is now headed to the Senate, where it may get picked up by the Senate and may be passed by the Senate. This is on the federal level. What the MORE Act is the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, which the main thing that it would do is deschedule cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. So right now, cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug, which means that it has no medicinal value and is highly addictive. And we know that this is nonsense and that it was actually scheduled in order to propagate a war on minorities and the hippie movement. So what is the MORE Act actually going to do when it deschedules cannabis, if this happens? So if this happens, you might think, oh, well, cannabis is descheduled, it's legal, I could just go smoke weed in the street and I can just have a great old time and I can start that weed business that I always wanted. That's not what it means. Basically, we are still under state rule when it comes to cannabis. So if you think of it like this, right now, cannabis is illegal when it comes to the federal government, yet the state supersedes that. The state says, well, we're going to tell you that you can use medical marijuana. And it's been a very kind of gray area when it comes to the federal government, because they don't necessarily like that the states are doing that, but there's not a whole lot that they can do about it. So we had something called the Cole Memo, where the Attorney General at the time instructed the DEA and law enforcement, federal law enforcement, to not persecute state legal cannabis businesses and not to persecute people for violating federal law if they are in compliance with state law. So right now, any of the cannabis that we're using here in Florida, anything here, this is all federally illegal still. So if you flip that around and you see that the federal government, if they legalize cannabis, the state still has control over whether or not it's legal where you are and what those rules are. So for instance, right now we have medical marijuana rules in the state that dictate who can sell marijuana, who can consume marijuana, and those laws would have to be adjusted for new federal law. So if we wanted to actually have it where you were not prosecuted for cannabis possession, those specific, the state, the county, the municipality, those laws have to be in place there, because you really don't see people being arrested on the federal level for cannabis crimes unless they're smuggling pounds and pounds and pounds of stuff, crossing state lines, doing things that are very, kind of egregious. So there's a very small number of federal cases. So the federal government isn't really going after cannabis. What it will do is it'll signal to the states that they need to change their laws. And then the states will and municipalities will figure those things out. We're already seeing that, start to happen. There are municipalities scrambling to say, we don't want that here. And there are some that are saying that we want that here. Very similar to what we saw when Amendment 2 was being voted on. And once it passed, we saw places like Cocoa Beach in Florida say, hey, we want dispensaries. And then you saw places like, I think Naples or Marco Island, I believe, was like, well, we don't want any of those near us. So there's a little debate over whether or not the MORE Act is good for the cannabis industry and whether or not it's good for growers and things like that. There's a weird echo going on. Oh, I see. A weird echo. I wonder what that is. Is the weird echo gone now? I don't know. Reverb? Is it gone? No? I hear it. I hear it. I don't know why that's happening. I have no speakers on. There's no speakers on. It is bad. Why is it doing it? This doesn't make any sense. Is it still doing it? What the hell? No. Feedback, like it's getting feedback, and there shouldn't be. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And all the old folks will get that one. All right, now I got the headphones in. This is an issue with my audio, if it's coming through here. Test. Test. Hey now. Look what I fixed. Now I am literally the luckiest man on the face of the earth. So I went through all of this stuff about the MORE Act, and apparently it sounded like I was standing in the middle of Yankee Stadium while telling you guys all of this, which makes me feel like more important, obviously. But the now that we've resolved the audio issue, so that's what happens when you get a cool background going. Now the audio starts acting up. But yeah, I hit one button on our mixer, and it created that phantom loop over there. So if you hadn't heard, the MORE Act is currently a bill that is in Congress that is supposed to decriminalize, deschedule cannabis, remove it from the Controlled Substances Act. And if that happens, we are going to default to state laws when it comes to marijuana legalization and what's legal to do, what's legal to sell, what's legal to possess. That all defaults to the state. It doesn't just become a free-for-all for everyone. There are other parts of the MORE Act that are pretty controversial depending on who you ask. The taxes that are being collected, there's a gradual increase in federal taxes on marijuana that some people are not happy about. It does enshrine a lot of the current market because it gives a lot of the people that are already have started cannabis companies, these big multi-state operators, it gives them kind of an advantage because it doesn't really have provisions for getting small businesses into the industry. That's again all deferring back down to the states. So we don't think marijuana legalization is going to be simple. But we do need to understand that just because something like this passes doesn't mean that everybody could just smoke weed. What does kind of mean that everyone can smoke weed is when nobody is really enforcing these things. So you can see things go on in places like Miami and New York where there's a lot of illegal sales, illegal possession and stuff going on when there isn't a lot of prosecution for it. And the reason is that it's just too time consuming, and especially with hemp being legal, and you have all these other kind of flower, Delta 8 and all that kind of stuff, it's very difficult for police, law enforcement to test whatever cannabis that's out there. Even if it's labeled, it doesn't prove anything. It could be bullshit. Just because it's in a cookies bag doesn't mean it came from cookies. So it's very difficult for law enforcement to differentiate between cannabis and hemp, and quite frankly, it's not worth it. It's not worth the testing, the prosecution, all of that for a possession charge. So it's moving the climate in the right direction, but the problem that we're having is people are going to think that just because this passes, that it's okay. You can just smoke weed, start selling weed. And those people, if they do that, are going to be pushing the envelope. They may not get in trouble. They may get in trouble. I may or may not be one of them. But it's important to understand that just because, the federal government lifts its ban on cannabis or lifts its demonization of cannabis, it does not necessarily mean that all translates down to the states. That's something that we have to do ourselves. And in Florida, the state government is very, very, very divided on a lot of things. We can see a lot of infighting with the state government here, and they consistently try and dismantle the medical marijuana program. So it concerns me what they might do if the MORE Act passes. Oh my God, this is a big thing. We have to protect our children. They pass some crazy laws, so we have to make sure that that doesn't happen, and we have to make sure that these the corporate interests don't have the only say in Tallahassee. So we have to make sure that our lawmakers know how we feel about the MORE Act and how we feel about cannabis, and your constituents, what you want to make your constituents happy. So it's important to talk to them. They want to place limits on everything from THC to the amount of products that you can buy, and it just goes to show that they don't really understand cannabis. They don't understand the plant. They don't understand the industry. And there really is a concerted effort, as far as I've been involved in this industry, to keep it to keep it down, to not let it grow as fast as it possibly could. And it's still growing fast. To see the innovation in this market, and despite all the pushback that you get from Tallahassee, is actually pretty remarkable. So we keep fighting, and we do what we can in order to make sure that our rights are preserved. But it's important to not be apathetic just because the MORE Act is passed, or just because cannabis is descheduled. It's going to be an amazing day if it does get descheduled. I guarantee it's monumental, but it is just one step, and we do need to make sure that our local governments know what we want and know what we demand as citizens. So apologies for the echo early on. Hopefully I was able to recap pretty quickly what I said before. I feel like I'm a little out of breath. Thanks to you guys for helping me out with the audio. Thanks to Nurse Colleen for coming in and telling me that the audio was messed up. Growing pains, but I'm digging the background, so one thing at a time. How you guys have a wonderful day, and be surprised for more content tomorrow. We'll see what's coming. We got a lot more interviews coming. We got a lot more video content coming, and some more interesting things for you guys. So stay tuned, and be back soon. Peace out. Have a great day.